So today I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 accessories for the Canon M50. And as it would have it, when I went through all the list of accessories that I've got and I tried to narrow it down to the 10 most important accessories that I use with this camera, the spectrum of prices was all over the place, anywhere from $5 all the way up to a couple $100. Regardless of what your budget is, there's probably going to be something in here of value to you or something that you could make use of. And some of these cheaper accessories are accessories that really, as soon as you buy the camera, I feel like you probably should buy these accessories. And if you don't have them already, I almost consider them must-haves. Now, the first accessory I'm going to talk about actually fixes some of the challenges that you can have with the Canon M50. And when you get the Canon M50, one of the amazing things about it is that it is like a full-size DSLR shrunk down into a tiny little package. And actually, it's one of my favorite things about the camera. It just feels amazing in your hands. It's like somebody has taken a professional level Canon camera and just made a little shrinky-dink model of it. Yet it has the 24 megapixel sensor and all the great Canon color science that you expect from Canon in this tiny little package. But when you start adapting lenses and you look at adapting bigger, heavier lenses, EF mount lenses, some of the big Sigma lenses, actually that small form factor becomes a bit of a challenge because you have all this weight on the front of this tiny little camera and just a tiny little grip to hold on to. It really makes the camera handle pretty poorly, and it can be a challenge to use when you're adapting bigger glass. And the solution that I found to that was this cool little cage. Now, this is a little cage from SmallRig, and all these accessories, I'll just put links in the description down below, so you'll be able to find everything. All the pricing will be there, so I probably don't know the price of all this stuff off the top of my head. This one, I want to say, was probably somewhere between $50 and $100. But the amazing thing about it is when you put the Canon M50 in, you get the extension of the grip. Now, you can see my hand can really sort of grab onto that now, where the M50 normally I would have my pinky hanging off. It makes the grip deeper as well. The other thing it does is it being a cage, it creates a protective area all the way around the camera, except for sort of the back side. But particularly important, it creates a protective area on the bottom of the camera. And that's where when you're out doing stuff outdoors, what have you, and you want to send it down on a rock or a table or some bricks or a wall or what have you, it's the bottom of the cameras that really get beat up the most. And this just protects the entire bottom of the camera. The whole bottom surface of the camera is going to be sitting on the cage, which is really nice. It has a number of threads in the bottom so you can mount your tripod to it. It also, the whole bottom of it is what they call an Arca Swiss plate. Arca Swiss? I think it is. Anyways, it is a type of tripod plate that you can actually clamp on to the bottom of this. And if you want to really go crazy with it and take this little beginning cage and turn it into like a cinema rig, you can do that. And there's a number of different accessories that I have, including these little handles that can go on the side. I've got a big top handle that you can use so that you can sort of get those low angle shots, and really helps with the stability, particularly if you have one of the big Sigma lenses on it or one of the big Canon lenses on it. It really gives you a better balance when you've got a top handle on it. So you can rig this thing out as much as you want, but if you just want something that gives you a better grip for those bigger lenses and gives you some protection for the camera, I cannot recommend the SmallRig Cage highly enough. Now, the next thing I'm going to recommend is this camera strap I use. And camera straps, I know they're not very exciting, and this one is a camera strap. This one has some features that really I think are must-have, and they make it so I always use a camera strap on the camera. And the first one is that this camera strap has a springy sort of neoprene shoulder harness, so when you're walking, it sort of takes that pressure out of the camera bouncing up and down. Even though the Canon M50 isn't that heavy, it just takes that little pressure off the shoulder. The next thing it does is, because it has a bit of a sort of a rubber grippy part, the camera doesn't slide around on your back like a normal camera strap would. And most importantly, it has these tiny little clips it uses that you just leave the little lanyards on the camera, and then you just clip these two clips in to either side. And what that means is when I'm going to take the camera and put it on a tripod, I can take the strap off and it doesn't get in the way. I find there's a lot of situations where you do not want the camera strap on the camera, and if you do have it on the camera, not only does it make things a bit clumsy and clunky and hard to use, but it can actually be dangerous for your camera. And I've had a couple situations where I had a camera strap that wasn't removable. I really shouldn't have had it on there. And when I went to take it off the tripod or off a desk or something, the strap drooped down and grabbed on a handle or grabbed on the side of a chair or something like that. And in one case, it actually ripped the whole camera out of my hands as I picked it up. Camera fell on the ground. Front element of the glass was scratched and the whole thing was ruined. And actually that happened on a hike I was doing when I was doing a tripod shot, and really it was kind of unfortunate because I only had a scratched lens for the rest of the trip. But having a removable camera strap is critical, and this one also has the advantage of having that little sort of springy suspension and the extra grip, so when it's on your shoulder it's not sliding around. Now, I'm a big fan of macro photography and macro video, and I think it is a really fun thing to experiment with. But for a lot of people, and myself included, owning a dedicated macro lens just for macro probably doesn't make sense. But there is a way that you can turn any lens into kind of a macro lens, and that is called a macro extension tube. And what it does is it actually puts a little bit of a spacer between your camera body and your camera lens, and that allows the lens to focus closer to the object than it otherwise would. Now, because these lenses aren't engineered specifically to be a macro lens, it isn't quite as good, but I would say in most situations, even when I'm using a macro lens and I test it against using the macro extension tubes, there's really not that big a difference. So, and these things are very inexpensive. I want to say $30 or so. The link will be in the description below, but yes, it does allow you to turn all of your lenses into a pseudo macro lens. Now you've got your standard set of lenses and they double as a set of macro lenses. So I think that is a really cool accessory, inexpensive, and it really creates some versatility with a bunch of lenses or even one lens that you've already got. Now, this next accessory might not be sexy or exciting, but it is the one thing that when I order any camera, I order this at the exact same time, and I don't take the camera out of the house until I've got this on the camera. And that is a screen protector. And once again, a very inexpensive accessory, saves damage to your screen, and also importantly, not only saves the screen from being damaged for your own use and while you're using it, and so that you don't have to walk around with a scratched screen at some point if you bump it or drop it, what have you. But it retains the resale value of the camera by protecting that screen. That is one of the most fragile things on any camera, and having a scratch on that screen is something that you're going to have to obviously show any buyer, and it really devalues the camera quite heavily. So this really inexpensive accessory, it just helps maintain the value of your camera, and it just makes it nicer for your use. So if it does get scratched, you just take the screen protector off and you put a new one on. Now, one of the great things about owning a Canon M50 or any of these Canon EOS M series cameras is that you get access to this really huge selection of EF and EFS glass. I mean, this is a massive amount of glass that's been made over the last few decades, I think, maybe longer. And you can get new, used, there's a whole spectrum of lenses you can get, but you obviously need an adapter to make use of these lenses. Well, the Canon adapter is actually pretty expensive for what it is, given all it does is move the lens out a bit and create some electronic contact so the electronics can actually connect to the lens and then come in and connect to the body. It's really a few wires and a bit of plastic. There isn't much to it, and what Canon want for their adapter, personally, I think, is highway robbery. Fortunately, I have gone through and tested all the different adapters that I could get my hands on Amazon, and I have picked the one that would, it actually turned out to be one of the most inexpensive ones, and also I think worked the best of all of them. So it really was a double bonus. It has a built-in tripod mount, And I just cannot fault this adapter. And I actually used it side by side compared to my Canon original model for probably 2 or 3 months until I finally accepted that there was absolutely nothing wrong with this adapter. It was just as effective and just as strong as the Canon model, and eventually just put my Canon model up on eBay and have now stuck with this little more generic adapter. But as I said, the quality to me is equal what the Canon was doing. Now there's something I always say about videography, and that is good audio won't make a bad video better, but bad audio will ruin a perfectly good video. Unfortunately, it isn't that hard to drastically improve the quality of your audio in the Canon M50 or just about any other camera for that matter. And I have found a cheap little $30 or $40 microphone, and I've got a few of these now, and this is what I use on all of my cameras. And to me, the audio out of this thing is as good as anything out there. It has really beautiful bass response. It sounds great on the voice, and I just can't fault it, particularly for the price. It comes with a shock mount. It comes with 2 different cables. One you can use with your phone, one you can use with your camera. It comes with a little carrying bag. So for the money, for me, if you are shooting video, this is an absolutely must-have. Sure, you can get some bigger, fancier microphones or shotgun microphones in the future. That's fine, but for an on-camera microphone, this is the one I use, even though I could have or use more expensive on-camera microphones. This is the one I choose to use when I'm shooting for myself. Now, one of the things we all love about the Canon M50 is the tiny little size and how compact and portable it is. But once you start to add some of these accessories, you can start to bulk it up, and you can start to defeat the purpose of having a small camera. And when I think of tripods, that's another thing that I do think of. You're carrying around this small little lightweight camera, but if you're carrying around a huge tripod, even some of the Joby GorillaPods with the bendy legs are actually quite big and heavy. Something to go with the M50 really should be small, light, nimble, simple. And that is what I use with my Canon M50, and that is the Joby HandyPod. And I cannot say enough good things about this little tripod. It is so incredibly simple to... Actually, I'll get a camera to show you how I put it on the camera. Now, it's literally so simple that there isn't even a quick release plate. It just threads on the camera like this, spin it, that's it, tighten it up. Now it's on. You adjust it. The ball head there's no twisting or turning. You just push this button. That releases the ball head. I wouldn't trust this on a big DSLR, but on the Canon M50, this has got plenty of grunt to hold up that camera in any lenses you would put on it. And then you've got the 3 legs that just flip out like this. And there you go, and it's extremely stable, extremely sturdy little tripod. And then it also doubles as a sort of vlogging selfie stick. It actually has a hand grip. It's designed so when the legs come together, you have a grip for your fingers, you have a place where your thumb rests, and you can turn it, and now you're sort of got your vlogging position. But it can also work as a stabilizer. So now I've just turned it around and you can see like that. The other thing you can do if you just want some extra stability, you can go like that. That just creates some extra width. You would probably actually go more like this. So you've got your grip there and your grip there. And that extra width is just making it so the narrower your grip, the more tilt you're gonna get. The wider your grip, the more stable it is and the less tilt you're going to get. So those are a few different ways you can use this, and this is under $30, so this is a no-brainer. I think if you have the Canon M50, you definitely should have the Joby HandyPod. Now this next accessory is another adapter, but it's one with a bit of a difference, and it's extremely inexpensive, and owning it gives you access to one of the biggest and most affordable collection of lenses on the planet Earth. And to me, this is an absolute must-have, and I just love using this on my Canon M50. And this is the M42 screw mount adapter. Now, what this does, it is a dumb adapter. It doesn't pass through any electrical connection because it doesn't have to. And it has a screw mount on the front, which allows you to adapt any M42 screw mount lens. And the M42 screw mount lenses are the original lenses that were made for 60, 100 years, I'm not sure how long, but they were the standard lens used for many, many years, and you can get them on eBay quite inexpensively. And I have 3 or 4 that I absolutely love, and I think I probably didn't spend more than 50 or 60 bucks a piece for them. And I love them for street photography and portraits and family shoots and things like that. They just give kind of a magical image that is really lost with modern lenses. I'll just grab one of those lenses now. I'll tell you about the lens and I'll show you how it threads on the adapter. So this is the Helios 44M, and if you were gonna buy one of these M42 screw mount lenses, this is the one that I would suggest. It is a 58mm lens with an f2 aperture, and it is the first of the multi-coated lenses in this range of lenses that were made. And because of that, it's not a modern multi-coating, so it doesn't give you the super high contrast look that a modern lens does, but it's not uncoated or single coated, which gives you more of a dull, washed out look that a vintage lens gives you. So it gives you an image somewhere in the middle. So this lens was made at a time where the multi-coating and the coating of lenses was in a transition phase from no coating, single coating to multi-coating. So it gives an image which is almost a hybrid between a modern lens and a vintage lens. And it's a look that I really like. I find it super easy to edit. I can either use these images straight out of camera, or they go really well in any editing software, playing with contrast and colors. And once again, all you do, you just put it on there, it screws on. Once it's done screwing on, you're in. And then I'll show you how it goes on the camera. And to put it on the camera, you just line up the red dot on the inside here with the white dot on the camera, twist, and you're good to go. And yes, this is my primary lens for street photography. 90% of my street photography is taken with this lens, and as I said, I think it probably cost me about $60, but I've got much more expensive lenses in my collection, but this is the one I use for street, and I think it really, really looks good. Now to some, this next one is gonna seem like a bit of a silly one, but this is another one of those things that when I buy a new lens, I buy this every single time. And that is a lens hood. But I usually don't get the manufacturer's lens hoods because if you've ever seen what Canon wants for their little plastic lens hoods, it's really highway robbery. It is practically criminal. But you can pick something up that is very comparable in quality. I'll put links in the description below to a few of the different ones that you can use for the EFM mount lenses. And they really are under $5, most of them. And the beauty of the lens hood, there's 2 ways you can protect that front elements in your lens. And one is you put on a UV filter. Now, a cheap UV filter usually messes with the image, particularly if you've got sun coming through or using at night and there's some lights around. So there's tons of situations that you really can't use a cheap UV filter, even a good UV filter. Often it will sort of ruin the image. But that's one way to protect your lens. But the other way is to use one of these little plastic lens hoods. Let me find my lens. And all you're going to do is you stick that on there, and it just means that when you are walking around, if you bump into anything, well, look at the lens cap. The lens cap came off, but look, the lens is still protected. And as I said earlier in the video, I really badly scratched the front element of one of my lenses when I dropped the camera one day after my camera strap caught on the tripod, and that would have been protected if I at least had a lens hood, and I didn't. But now everything I get, I put a lens hood on it, and one of these cheap ones gives you the same level of protection as one of the more expensive ones. And this final one is something completely different, and it's one of the more expensive accessories, and it is the Zoom F1 SP. Now this is really for the more advanced user, and what it is, it's an all-in-one audio recorder and shotgun microphone package. And what it allows me to do is when I'm shooting some video and I've got my onboard microphone, which I know is going to get good audio as long as it's close to the camera, but I know there's going to be somebody speaking or I want to interview somebody from a distance, I've got this that can actually go on the camera if I want it, but it can also be removed and just set separately close to the source. So if you're shooting doing video of a school concert or a party where you're going to surprise someone and you want close audio to what their reaction is, because you can zoom in with video, but you can't zoom in with audio, then you can use this package. But it's also super flexible because you can take the shotgun microphone off and you can use it as a lapel mic. You can mic yourself up, or in a wedding, you can mic up a bride or a groom, or at a birthday party, you can mic up a kid. You can also put adapters on it, so you can use XLR microphones like you would use in a band or for singing or in a church. There's so many different situations that you can use this little thing in. But the starter package comes with the shotgun microphone and the audio recorder, and I have just found this completely indispensable in my workflow, and I pretty much use it for everything now. So the Zoom F1 SP is probably for a little bit more of the aspiring or advanced filmmaker or YouTube video maker, or adventure filmmaker, or somebody who's trying to get into doing some family or simple style documentary stuff. So it is more of an aspiring piece of kit, and it's probably the most expensive on the list. But it is one that, if it's something that might work for your workflow, I certainly can highly recommend it. All right, I hope some of this was helpful. I hope one of these things was something new that you'd never heard of or thought of before. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. And as always, thank you for watching, and stay creative.